When am I on?
Whenever you're talking.
Oh, okay.
Hello everybody, and welcome today to another edition of the American Society of Landscape Architects Emerging Professionals Committee Ask Me Anything event. How's that for a long name? That's a mouthful. We are so glad that you are all joining us again today. We're excited about our guest and looking forward to having a great discussion with a lot of good questions coming from you guys. Of course, as always, you are welcome to ask your questions in the comments section on this Facebook Live post, and we will get to as many questions as we possibly can, so just keep them coming and we'll get to you eventually. So without further ado here, I would like to welcome our guest. We have with us Barbara Deutsch. I am saying that right, correct, Barbara? Barbara Deutsch, my apologies. But thank you. Barbara is the CEO of the Landscape Architecture Foundation, a great organization doing amazing work on behalf of landscape architecture in and around the world, and doing great things for students, for professionals, and for research for the profession. So Barbara, thank you for joining us and welcome, and I'm going to open it up to you to say a few opening remarks. It seems we have an audio issue, so just coming along to, I'm just looking at some stuff to make sure we're good. If I can just get you to give me a test 1, 2, 3, Barbara. Keep going. All right. We're going to go ahead, as our regular viewers know. We always start these with a series of questions that we ask each guest. So we're going to go ahead and get started with those while you guys work on getting some comments and questions into Facebook. So Barbara, actually before we get into these, let's go a little more into your history. So people will have a little more background of who you are and how you ended up where you are. So I know you are a landscape architect, so even though you're currently working at this nonprofit as a CEO, your background is as a landscape architect. So tell us a little bit about your path into landscape architecture, where you went to school, that kind of stuff, and then how you ended up through your career at LAF. Let's start there.
on. But...
There, it's on me now.
Okay.
Can you talk for me 1 sec?
Sure. Okay, I'll, so sorry this is happening.
Yeah.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, we'll get it sorted. We'll be good.
We'll run slightly long if we need to, everybody, so that we don't...
Oh, they can hear us now.
Oh, they can hear you now?
Or they can hear me.
Okay, perfect.
Good.
Yep, there we go. Several comments coming through. I hear her now. Okay, we got it. All right. Our apologies, everybody, for the technical difficulties. The joy of live technology when you're not professional broadcasters, but we're doing our best. So let's go back, Barbara, and pick back up where you left off. I guess let's start that again, kind of your career progression, since most people couldn't hear you. All right. Thanks.
No.
No? All right. This is very strange now. Hold on. I think I've got it. Okay. Everyone can hear me. So.
I can hear you over there. Yeah.
Okay. Now let me do a little. Okay. There it goes.
Okay, evidently the camera's on me, they can't hear me, but if the camera's on you, they can hear me.
Okay, I've got it on me now. It's switched back to you. Okay.
Okay. Are we on?
Yep.
It's working. Yay, good job. Okay, I think we're live and ready to go. All right, so the question was, tell me the question again. This is the first I just want to make sure I'm
just your background information, how you ended up.
Yep. Okay, so I have a mixed background. I didn't know what landscape architecture was when I was in college, and so I studied business, marketing, and computers, and then information systems. So I was having systems thinking, but applying it to information systems. And then so I worked for IBM for 10 years, first as a systems engineer, then I loved marketing and sales and marketing programs, so I continued on with them. and learned so much, but all the while I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up, and took classes avocationally at nights and weekends in design, whether it was graphics design, interior design, art history, drawing. Worked with clay in Pittsburgh for 3 years when I lived there, and in San Francisco worked with Ikebana, which is in traditional Japanese art and flower arranging, and also did some volunteer work when I was in San Francisco for an organization called Urban Ecology, and this was the early 90s, and we were trying to figure out what to do with some of the military base closures, and one of the options was a new urbanist community, so new urbanism was just developing, and I thought, wow, how great is this? This is so fun, designing communities that are better for people and better for the environment. I want to be an architect. No, you want to be a landscape architect. I said, what is that? I didn't even know. So I researched it, and I thought, wow, this is the greatest profession, but no one knows what you do. You know, the world needs what what landscape architects have to offer, but you have to get it out there in a way that others are open to receiving it. So I wanted to, so I went and got my MLA at University of Washington, and I focused hard on plant and soil ecology, since that wasn't in my background. And when I finished my thesis and graduated, I went and visited a friend over in Hong Kong. And long story less long, but at a party. I met someone the second night I was there at a party, and 6 weeks later, 3 days before the movers were coming, because she was finishing her assignment, quitting her job, and we were going to go travel, this woman said, oh, is Barbara still there? I ran into a friend of mine who's a landscape architect, and we're looking for good people, you know, and I thought, oh my God, I don't want to work here, but let me see what kind of work they're doing. And I was just blown away. And it was a great firm and a great director. And, you know, in Seattle, I was interested, well, where do we put another 1,000 people in 20 years and do the master plan as part of the neighborhood planning process? And over in Hong Kong, I'd be on a core team from government, where do we put another 200,000 people in 10 years and do the master plan, figure out where to locate it, do the master plan. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I'm moving to Hong Kong. So I did, and it was great. And that's so I feel with that career change, that international experience and perspective, that cultural experience, and then I came back to University of Washington and taught for a couple of years, and then came to DC and worked in the nonprofit sector. And I worked for a tree organization. I had a low fellowship. Took a time out to adopt my daughter, and then did consulting for bioregional, One Planet Communities, and then two people considered soulmates in my life had sent the job announcement for LAF and said, this has your name written all over it. Like, wow, this is great. So here I am. It's been 2009, so 8 years. Love it.
All right. So it was a roundabout path, but you found you. Like, yeah, okay.
They see me, but they can't hear me.
Yep, okay, all right. I have this new plan right here, and we're going to see if this will work.
Plan B. Life is Plan B.
I know. We're just winging it, and we're going to make it work.
Oh, she can hear me. They can hear me now.
And kind of see you?
They can see me. Yes. Oh, great.
Okay. Good. All right. So here's what we're going to do. This is going to work. It's going to be great. There. All right. Let's make sure they can still hear, and then we'll move on to our questions. Yeah, I think we're good now. We'll just lose some of the graphics, and we'll just go video, and we'll be good. All right. So let's move on to our first question that we always ask. If there was one thing, Barbara, that you could go back and tell your younger landscape architect self, what would that be?
There's one thing I can tell my younger landscape architecture self. It's to, a couple things maybe. Kind of like the Buddhist mantra, start where you are. It was a career change, so I was like, feeling impatient that I was behind, but then have a vision for what you want to accomplish. There's many ways to practice. That would be another thing I would tell myself, and so not to worry or be so anxious, like, I have to do this to be a landscape architect. There are many ways to practice and many ways to fulfill your vision of making a difference.
All right. That's good advice. It's, lots of paths, for sure. So let's ask, and I think you might have alluded to this a little bit earlier when you were talking, but who or what has had the biggest impact on your career thus far?
Since I have such a varied career, I will say that there are a couple things, who or what, that have had an influence on me. And one was, I call them my second family, my baby sophomore in high school, and the mother there was a flight attendant and made a career change to become an environmental attorney. And she's the one that helped integrate or influence me, open my eyes to the environmental issues and activism, and that you can make a career change. You're never too old to make a career change. In my class at UW, there was a woman, I think she was 60 years old, and she was doing something for herself once after she had taken care of her whole family all these years, and now it was, this is what she wanted to do. So it's never too late to start, so start where you are. So I think that was influential in my career. And then I think living abroad in Hong Kong, I didn't understand or appreciate what culture really was until I left what was familiar to me and had to make my way in a different place and a different way of seeing things and doing things. And that I still draw from all the time. And so I think those, and then my business background helping me now run the business here, so to speak. I mean, a nonprofit organization is a business, a complex form of business management. And so certainly having all of that together has come together, I think, in really neat, fulfilling, fun ways for me.
Yep. All right. We will move right on to the next one. And then we do have some questions coming in from the audience, so we will get to you guys very soon and keep them coming. All right, so next question. What do you think is the best thing about being a landscape architect?
What I think the best thing about being a landscape architect is I just think landscape architecture is so cool, and what we do is so relevant and so needed. And we're designers, we're problem solvers, we're, we think out of the box, to help solve all the defining issues of our time. I mean, what could be cooler? That's what I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of diversity in what you do, and it seems like you rarely meet a landscape architect who doesn't like their job. I think that's a great testament, I think, to the profession and to the professionals that are in the profession, that they're dedicated, they enjoy what they do, and it's always different. I think you're always experiencing something new, and All right, let's move on to the next question, and this one. This was supposed to be our controversial question, the big argument, but it's never as controversial as we had hoped, I think, when we first came up with it. But what is your opinion on the big debate over hand drawing or computer graphics?
Hand drawing or computer graphics? I guess my answer will sound diplomatic, but I think it's what I think. I think you need both. I think there's something chemical or biological about the hand drawing something from your brain and the creativity process and work, drawing with your hand. And I think there's also value in learning and productivity and scale and other things you learn from computer graphics. So I think you need both. I think you need to be able to be at a bar or a meeting and do a plan on a cocktail napkin. And I think you also need to be in the office and make things real, operationalize it. So I think you need both.
That seems to be the status quo answer, that you need both. And yeah, I think there's a lot to that. To be able to just create on a whim is important. And then I think the computer graphics important probably in selling and conveying your concepts to people, I think. So well done. All right. And then our final question that we ask of everyone, this is kind of the dream question, is if you were given a golden ticket, if you won the Willy Wonka contest and you won the golden ticket to go visit any landscape in the world, where would you want to go?
Oh, that's so hard to say. My favorite landscape of today are the rainforests. So I like to go to the rainforest. And I think I'll also answer this question of a landscape of the future. I'd love to, I'm willing, I don't know, be here 50 years and see, or 100 years and see what the Earth looks like.
Yeah, that's a good answer. We haven't gotten one like that before. I like that. It would be interesting to see 100 years. I'm sure things will have changed pretty dramatically. All right, well, let's talk about and go through some questions that we're getting in from the audience here. And the first one is a great topic, which I'm sure you're going to love to talk about. They are asking, this is Petra, how do you plan to guide or hold accountable the landscape architects who have signed on to the Landscape Declaration, given the political climate of the United States today? So answer that question and then maybe go into a little more in depth about the Declaration and what that is for anyone who may not be familiar.
Sure. Petra, great question. Thank you. We are working on our plans to do that. The Declaration is the new Landscape Declaration is an update from the Declaration of Concern that LAF asked Ian McCard and others to develop 50 years ago. So LAF, the Landscape Architecture Foundation, was founded 50 years ago. The first thing they did was task Ian McCard, and he invited Grady Clay and John Simons and others to develop an agenda for the profession so that we could make our vital contribution to solving the environmental crisis. So we held LAF held a summit a year ago, actually, anniversary show, to convene leading thinkers from all over the world to respond to that declaration, offer their vision for the future. And from that, we took input from panels on the next day and the audience and others to develop the new Landscape Declaration, which describes the defining issues of our time 50 years later. What is the agency of us as landscape architects to solve those issues of the day? And then what do we need to do as a profession to increase the capacity of landscape architects to help solve the defining issues of our time, which were identified as climate change, rapid urbanization, mass species extinction, and equity issues. So in that declaration, if you haven't seen it, you can go online to lafoundation.org, and then you can see the new declaration, read it. If you agree, sign it. That's the first step to a commitment to increase awareness, to know that you're not alone, that others are in your profession are thinking about these things and committed to doing something about it. And then what we at LAF are doing to, one, increase awareness about the declaration and the agenda and the calls to action. The calls to action are, to diversify and increase our global capacity as a profession. The second one is to cultivate a culture of leadership, activism, and advocacy in the profession. The third one is to increase awareness about the vital contribution that landscape architecture makes. And the fourth one is focused on research and innovation to develop new practices and exemplary work to help achieve those, help solve those defining issues. So we're not prescribing what to do to make that commitment. We're hopefully inspiring you to be aware that as a group, as a profession, these are our values and ideals, and this is the culture we need to create. That's not good enough to be a good designer. You need to be an active designer. In whatever way, shape, or form that takes. That is for you with your interests, your context, and what you think you can best contribute and help. But it's none of this shape-seeking species stuff anymore. We need to be out and active, and whatever form that takes. And then LAF, what we're looking to do is increase awareness about this agenda, and then we're going around and talking through ASLA chapter meetings and through our board and our scholars, and listening to what you're already doing to answer the call, to collect your ideas and see what we can bring to scale for the profession at large, so you don't have to recreate the wheel. And we're looking at some type of synthesis of things to do to get you started. Again, we're not prescribing what to do because we couldn't possibly. We're so impressed and inspired by the creativity and the energy of professionals out there already who are doing great things or who are working to answer the call in new ways. But that being said, to provide kind of a starting point for people who are looking for a starting point. So that's what we are working on. And then the plan is to have Summit 2, so to come back in 5 years and hear from those who are answering the call and what they're doing and how they're doing it and what measurable impact that has, influence that has had. So that, again, the idea is not to recreate the wheel and to inspire others and to increase our collective capacity to achieve the changes that we're all want to see these changes.
All right. That was the summit, and the whole process of the declaration was great work, and I commend you and the staff on all that you did to pull that together. It was a great event, and all of the follow-up has been phenomenal. There's actually a follow-up question to that. So I'm curious about the feedback LAF has received regarding this declaration, which doesn't have the same type of published or visible dialogue format as Landscape Architecture magazine, for example, where Brad McKee's political editorials have been met with published intense support and criticism. So how are you, what has your feedback been? And you mentioned some of the ways you're getting the word out through going to chapter meetings, things like that, but talk a little bit about that.
Interesting question. That's a good observation. I think that maybe we are reaching a select audience. Maybe that's what that says, and we need to get it out more to a diverse audience. We are working through the chapters, and certainly ASLA is a great partner and help us communicate the work from the summit and the declaration, and Brad certainly through LAM. So I'm not sure why we're not getting that criticism. We do have, when you sign the declaration online, you have the opportunity to comment, and it is really inspiring to hear if you go through those and read what people have written, but we have not received that criticism. So I'm not sure what to make of that. I'm going to think about that. Thanks.
All right. Our next question from the audience asks, how is landscape architecture as a discipline responding to disasterscapes and resilient cities?
okay, how has landscape architecture as a discipline responding to disaster areas and resilient cities? And the immediate effort coming to mind is the Rebuild by Design effort, which was led, several of the winning teams were led by landscape architects, and certainly landscape architects were key players on all of the teams. And we hope that work gets implemented, and we have examples at a larger scale. But I think this is part of the call to action. When we look at activism and advocacy is not just lobbying on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., or even your state legislator, but at the local level, I call it the grit activism of getting involved with the codes and how the system works so that we can implement green infrastructure or more resilient solutions, or when we look to the visioning and the planning of cities, that there's the landscape framework and basis for achieving the multiple goals that mayors and citizens want to achieve. So I think there's different projects, different contexts for different cities. That's an example. I think there's lots of opportunity, and that's the call to action to move forward, to get involved in the commissions, the hearings, the understanding how the system works, which takes a lot of time. And it's kind of that grit. I call it the grit activism. It's not glamorous. It's hard. It takes a long time, but that's what needs to be done. You can understand the system. You have to understand the system in order to change it. And then when we start changing it and demonstrating, we can be more involved in creating these more sustainable, resilient cities.
All right. So I want to remind everybody to keep the questions coming in. You're doing great. Thank you. But you talked about green infrastructure and some of the resilient city stuff. One of the great works that LAF does is the Landscape Performance Series, which I think is a help to kind of build some best practices and things like that in regards to that. Why don't you talk a little bit about LPS and what's going on there and how that came about, and just a little background.
Sure. The LPS, Landscape Performance Series, it's an online series of tools and resources, case studies, quantified environmental, social, and economic benefits to show the value of sustainable landscape solutions and to show the value of landscape architecture. Ideally, it's envisioned as comparing and contrasting through images and benefits conventional development versus sustainable development. Sustainable development with a landscape architecture approach and solutions. And this emerged out of what I would say was the need, coming from a marketing background, the need for landscape architects to better market themselves. So to be able to show the value of what we do. If people see the value of it, they will invest in it. And so the onus is on us to be able to represent our work in a way that others see the value. So that's kind of market, from my lens, coming in as marketing. So understanding your client or who you're working with, their objectives, and then showing them the benefits of your solutions towards achieving their objectives. So the Landscape Performance Series is both content, but it's also a process of landscape performance that we want to integrate into design practice and therefore education in order to better equip landscape architects to represent their values so we can do more work, get more work, and change the world through landscape architecture.
Right.
So the goal, I think it works on many levels in terms of, one, for the profession internally to be able to develop those skills and integrate it into the design process, not retroactively evaluating a project, but at even before when you talk to the client, creating a vision of what could be, and then implementing, looking ahead, how are we going to show the value of this work, and then develop the metrics, the methods, what data you need in the site analysis, so you have something to benchmark against once it's built and operating, but to be able to then show the value. I mean, to not go back and look at our work. I had a professor who said, oh, design is like, how do you say this? Design is research where you don't go back and look at your work. It's like crazy. We are doing a little research. Every project's different, so you're doing research every time, but you need to go back, see what the findings are, learn from that. It's the basis of any continuous improvement process, self-improvement process. So it works for the profession to better market themselves and the work and what we do. So we have more opportunities to do what we do. And then it's also content. It creates content through the case studies that we can use to advocate, to give to other people who have shared interests. So other nonprofits with similar missions who are lobbying on the Hill, who are talking to the mayor, who are making things happen, but don't have data on landscape or green infrastructure or whatever the shared interest might be. As well as agencies at the local, federal, state level who are making decisions who need this data from you. And I think that part of it, it's a long answer, sorry, but part of when we started this, we did focus groups. This was 2009, so the stimulus package had just come out. And we talked to some nonprofits who, one nonprofit, she'd been lobbying on the Hill for 10 years to explain what green infrastructure was. She said this is the first time they called me in, they didn't ask what green infrastructure was, both committees, and they said, how much is shovel ready? And so she went to her partners and found $1.4 billion in shovel ready green infrastructure projects.
Wow.
And I'm sure other things were involved, but at the end of the day, what was in the stimulus package? $1.4 billion in green infrastructure funding. And it was the only funding used by every state, and it was the only funding completely used up in a year. So, tip of the iceberg in terms of opportunity and need out there. But to be able to, she said, if we would have had this data 10 years ago, these examples of what you all do, we would have been so much farther along. So that's the other goal of the performance series, is providing content for better advocacy.
Right. And how can people become involved in the Landscape Performance Series? Whether it's their projects or research, how can they become involved in it?
Sure. There's many ways to be involved. One, you can be a user of the content. Two, if you want to contribute content, there's several ways. You can send to any of the fast facts, which are the peer-reviewed, published research related to landscape performance, not just qualitatively, but quantitative benefits, or any calculators or online tools, or any any news or content related to landscape performance. You can send it to us. We'll vet it. We'll put it on the website for others to share. There are case studies. We have over 100 case studies. LAF developed a case study method for research in landscape architecture over 10 years ago. This is the short, brief version online. And you can, I think the template's there. You can submit your own case study. It would go through a peer-reviewed jury. We also fund teams through a competitive process. So the applications are due in the fall, where you would submit exemplary work and partner with an academic and faculty and their research assistant that LAF would fund to work with you to develop the metrics and the methods, and collect or synthesize any data, publish your findings in this case study format that we would then publish online. So that's a way to represent your work, again, so we're not all recreating the wheel. We can learn from each other, and we can promote your work. So those are ways. If you're teaching, we offer grants to help you integrate landscape performance, that process I explained, into your coursework. If you're leading, and then also to get integrated throughout the department or program, because now it is part of the new accreditation standards going into effect this fall, that that this landscape performance is integrated into design education. So those are some ways off the top. If you have other ideas, we'd love to hear them.
All right. So that's a good segue, the way you ended there, to lead into a next series of questions we have here related to education and the profession. Let's start with this one. How do you think landscape architects and LAF can support attracting more diverse people to become landscape architects? Are there studies out there that examine the current demographics of the profession?
Great question. Yes, there are studies out there examining the demographics of the profession. There is something called the President's Council. So the president and the directors for each of the capacity organizations within the profession. So that includes LAF, ASLA, CLARB, CLA, LAAB, and the CSLA, the Canadian Society of Landscape Architects, meet annually and throughout the year to talk about trends, directions, issues, and opportunities within the profession. And if there's an opportunity for collective action, then they come together to develop solutions. So I think certainly in education, all those organizations are involved. And one of the objectives we recently set a couple years ago was how do we increase diversity in the profession. And so so where we are with the goal, we set a goal, an objective to mirror the population by 2030 something, I think. And don't quote me on the date, but we set a target. And so now we're working on strategies through our organizations to help with that objective. And so we'll be measuring along the way. So it is measured. What do I think are ways to help increase diversity in the profession? There are lots of considerations that go into the outcome of not having diversity in the profession. Here are some of the things, not in particular any order, but one is just general awareness about the profession and what we do, and why it's important, and why it's a cool profession and fun to do. And that you can make a good living and have fun with your job and love going to work every day doing it. And so that has to start in elementary school and high school so that people even know about it when they go to college. Two, you need financial support to go to school, right? So scholarships and other programs are helpful to achieve that. And so LAF is a leading provider of national awards for students, and so that's something we are working on to always increase the support there. Three, you need mentors and people that look like you. So we need to really support diverse. We need to look and understand. It's not just looking; it's culture, different ways of thinking and different ways of doing. And so to really embrace that, and that's part of the call to action in the declaration, and figure out ways to make sure that happens. So it's also gender in leadership. So that's on the practice and different ways of practicing. And just provide a supportive environment to support diversity throughout a career path. So those are some general things, and certainly some specific areas where we are looking to develop some programs and ways to do that.
All right. Next question, also education related, and sort of relevant to you at the moment, I think. The question is in regards to Chinese students and the influx of Chinese students in our programs here in the U.S. and how that may be changing the way we're teaching design here in the U.S. I know that you were recently in China, I believe, for the ASLA conference, which they had out of the country in China this year. So talk a little about that experience and things that you may have learned or have come out of that in relation to the question.
Great, yes. I just came back from a week in Beijing for the annual ASLA conference, which which about every 4 or 5 years is hosted. It's an international organization, so it's hosted globally. And it was quite an eye-opener. A couple things that came together, kind of converged while I was there, and understanding, seeing one of our board members teaches Ellen Deming at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and had done a video with her students to develop their own call to action for the declaration, the new landscape declaration. And so we saw that video recently, and most of her students were from China. And then to go over to China and see how the profession has been elevated there. China rates all the professions. So there's several thousand professions. There's a couple hundred that make level 1. And the profession of landscape architecture was elevated in the last 5-7 years from a level 3 to a level 1 profession because of its importance to society to help solve the environmental problems that they're experiencing in their country and particularly in their cities and with their rapid growth and urbanization. It's the largest migration in human history, people moving from rural areas to the cities. And so, and then to hear also at ASLA how some programs are struggling with recruitment, just like, wait a minute, what's happening here? what do we need to do here? Again, this is the coolest profession, so how do we attract people to this profession and develop this home base here? I know many of the graduates from China practice here, but they also want to go back and help their country. And so we also need resource here. And so what kind of strategies, again, probably a conversation for the President's Council and all the organizations, but what can LAF do to help with recruitment to this profession? I don't know if I answered the full question. Do you want to read that back again?
Yeah, I think you did. How is the influx of Chinese students changing teaching design here in the U.S. in terms of landscape architecture?
Yeah, and I would say teaching, culturally also, there's different leadership models in China, different contexts, different scale. If you haven't been there, it'll blow you away. It's just, so perhaps the teaching, synthesizing those perspectives, which I think is really cool with our context here, and that's how we learn to look at things in a different way. So that's exciting.
All right, and we have one more education question. Actually, we got an almost identical question from two different people, so I'll just read one of them here. Do you think that landscape architecture would benefit if we had more PhD programs with more professors and students doing peer review research?
Absolutely.
All right.
That's a short answer.
Yeah, very short. No, that's good. Absolutely, that sums it up. Let's talk, since we kind of been talking education, and you mentioned it briefly about your scholarship programs, since we are very much geared towards students and young professionals. For the student side, talk about the various scholarship programs, including the Olmsted Scholarship Program, and how they might become an Olmsted Scholar and what that would mean to them and their career, possibly.
Sure. So we have several programs to support students. So we have financial award scholarships, we have the Olmsted Scholars Program to cultivate leadership and provide recognition. We also have the new fellowship program, which Olmsted Scholars and emerging professionals mid-career and senior level professionals can participate. So the Olmsted Scholars Program, we're celebrating, we're going into our 10th year of Olmsted Scholars, and the goal was to attract the best and brightest to the profession by offering a significant prize that would show the value and gain attention to the profession, as well as to build this network of Olmsted scholars that go on and change the world, like all of you. So how it works is each university nominates their Olmsted Scholar, which is based on leadership and service and academics and a variety of factors. And then all the Olmsted Scholars go into a pool, and we have a professional jury who selects the winner and some runner-ups, both in the graduate and undergraduate pool. And the winner of the graduate pool receives a $25,000 award, and the undergraduate receives a $15,000 award. And those nominations are due February 15th, and then the final applications are due March 15th of each year. And then those, whether you win the prize, grand prize or not, you're still an Olmsted Scholar, and you can use that title forever. And it's a good recruitment tool for employers who know that, okay, you're an Olmsted Scholar, you've been vetted for, and it's a good opportunity for the students. I think that we're building this network we have over 500 Olmsted Scholars now, and so we work with them to develop leadership and learn what they're doing. And I know every year we read the applications, and if you're feeling hopeless, they give you hope. So all of you out there, you emerging professionals, you really inspire us, and we try to figure out how we can bottle what you have and scale it up. And so again, not just Olmsted Scholars, but all of you. And it's really inspiring, and really appreciate that energy. And we're trying to look at different practice models and ways to support that inspiration and energy throughout your career. I know sometimes I have these great ideas to change the world, and I'm in front of a CAD all day or something, So trying to work with leaders at different practice models to make sure that you still develop, you still have to apprentice and develop the technical skills and the landscape architecture skills, but you still can do the kind of work that you find inspiring, or talking about and trying to figure out those things. So that's the Olmsted Scholars Program, and they give us good ideas about that. If you don't have to be an Olmsted Scholar to give us any ideas, we're open. We want to hear from you. And I think we have the new fellowship program, which much last fall, and that is an entrepreneurial. It's like it's an investment in innovation and kind of entrepreneurial investment, where we offer $25,000 awards for you to develop a proposal over the course of a year with 3 residencies here in DC on an intergenerational leadership team. So this year we have 6 fellows, 2 Olmsted Scholars, 4 mid-career professionals. And then these are ideas. You can go on our website and have a look at them, but that are growing the profession, answering the calls to action in the declaration in some way, shape, or form. And the idea is that you're going to transform the profession. So, we're excited about the talent we see and the energy and the new ideas and ways of doing things. And so we look at our job as to how do we support you and scale that.
Excellent. I've had the honor of serving as a juror for the Olmsted Scholar before, and it is incredibly inspiring. You're right. I wish everyone in the profession could read the ideas and the things that these students are coming up with, and we're in good hands for the future. I think that's definitely true. We are getting close to the top of the hour. Before we close or wrap this up, I want to make sure I give you a chance to let people know how they can help LAF, how they could support the Landscape Architecture Foundation or become involved, or what are ways that someone who wants to give back in some way could get involved and do that.
Oh, thanks. There are many ways to support LAF. So if you like what we're doing, there's many ways to help. One is through service on committees or our board of directors. We have committee. You don't have to be a board member to be on a committee. And we have research committees, education, finance, development, leadership, communications. We have task force on diversity and climate change. So we welcome that. We also provide volunteer work, whether it's sometimes we need graphic design support, sometimes we have, there's some things you can do remotely, some things here. We have a list a mile long of short projects that would help greatly increase awareness about the profession or what we're doing. So there's service. There's participate in our programs. So you can participate through CSI. You can serve on juries for scholarships. You can, let's see, those are the key areas. Contribute content to the landscape performance series. So service, program participation, support us at getting the word out about the declaration. We're looking at hosting, with each ASLA chapter on their annual meeting agendas, going over the declaration. We're looking, people are having their own local think and drinks or lunch and learns or different types of events to have to start this conversation about what you can do. And it's not just a one-shot conversation, it's a series of conversations. So to be really committed and diligent to let us know what you're doing or what you think needs to be done. And then there's also financial support, right? So you can come to our annual benefit, which is the first night of the ASLA annual meeting every year. So Friday night, October 20th or 21st. We're in LA, and it's fun. It's a great party.
Always a great party.
It's a great party. And we recognize our Armstead Scholars, and this year we'll be recognizing our LAF medal winner, Cornelia Hahn Oberlander. So she'll be there too. And we have an expo booth during the annual meeting expo, where we'll have our book out on the summit. We need help covering the booth. We need help talking to people. So they're supporting us that way. It's financially, make a donation. You can go online anytime, make a donation, or send a check. We are a business. We do need to make a profit, even though we are a nonprofit organization. If we want to increase our capacity, to increase your capacity.
For the students and emerging professionals who are going to the annual meeting, which we strongly encourage you to do, it's a great opportunity, but one of the best networking opportunities for you is the LAF benefit, because you could be out cutting a rug, dancing with your icon hero landscape architects, having a blast. So highly recommend, could be a great opportunity. All right.
Yeah, sorry, not to cut in, but remember how sometimes the best jobs you get are you meet someone at a party. So.
That's right, absolutely. And it's a great place for it, for sure. All right, so we are at the top of the hour. We're going a little bit long just because we had some of those technical issues, but I wanted just to give you one last opportunity, Barbara, for any closing remarks or anything that you had hoped to mention but didn't, or anything like that. So, floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, Daniel, thanks so much. I know I'll think of something after we disconnect, but I think the main thing I wanted to say is I think this is so cool, you and Permalak are doing this, and thank you for supporting the emerging professionals, and you're right, we are so inspired by what you all are doing out there, and we want to hear about it, and if you're doing something cool, let us know. We'll put you in the newsletter, and we'll promote what you're doing and get the ideas to learn from each other and increase our collective capacity. We're not into recreating the wheel. We got a lot of work to do. We can only do it if we do it together. So anyway, totally cool format. I hope this is helpful. I appreciate the opportunity, and what you're doing on the work. Permalog is a great sponsor and supporter and investor in LAF in many ways. So thank you so much for all your good work and what you're doing here. And I look forward to hearing what's next from everyone.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Barbara, and for sharing what's going on at LAF and your insights into the profession as a whole. And thank you to all of our viewers for joining us again today. We apologize for the technical difficulties we had early on, but the good news is I think we have it exactly figured out, so we'll never have it again. So that's good. Which, speaking of again, we have a couple great events coming up next month, the second Tuesday of July at 3 p.m. The date's not on the top of my head, but we're going to have Mia Lehrer of Mia Lehrer and Associates out of Los Angeles, so that should be a great event. So plan for that, get your questions ready, get them coming in, and we will look forward to seeing you again then. So on behalf of the ASLA Emerging Professionals Committee, we thank you for joining us and have a wonderful day. Share this video with as many people as you can through your Facebook feeds and all of your feeds, and let's keep getting the word out about landscape architecture. Thanks.